The Monowheel. Amazingly, this wacky design in its petrol-powered form dates back to the turn of the 20th century. This child-sized monowheel was built sometime in the late 1920s. This footage is from the 1930s. But this sketch dates back to 1904 and is possibly the first successful engine-powered monowheel. Even before engine-powered monowheels, man-powered monowheels existed. This is a sketch of Hemming's unicycle, or the Flying Yankee Velocipede. This was a hand-powered monowheel patented in 1869 by Richard C. Hemmings. The undeniable silliness and inventiveness of these designs have inspired many pop culture references to monowheels. But despite their presence in pop culture, which often only amplifies their absurdity, these designs do actually work, despite having some flaws. The monowheel works by having a chassis inside the main wheel. Secured to the chassis is the engine, steering, and driver's seat. Most monowheels will have their engine powering a small wheel mounted to the inner chassis. This small wheel presses against the inner rim of the large monowheel, driving it using friction. 2 or 3 other small wheels are typically present on the inner chassis to keep the monowheel stable and connected to the chassis. Steering a monowheel is done by shifting the driver's weight. Monowheels can have steering wheels to help swivel the seat of the rider to make this easier. A driver can also use their feet to obtain a very tight turning radius. Monowheels are fairly stable at low speeds, at least compared to unicycles. But like bicycles and unicycles, they are dependent on forward momentum and the balance of the rider to remain upright. They remain upright due to gyroscopic effects. So when a monowheel, like a bicycle, comes to a stop, a rider must put their feet out to balance the vehicle. Though some monowheel designs have support wheels or skids to prevent the vehicle from tipping. Some designs also turned using skids, but this method using friction would result in a loss of efficiency for the monowheel. Some of these old monowheel designs could reach speeds high enough to blend with city traffic. New modern monowheel speed records now exceed 65 miles per hour, or just over 100 kilometers an hour. However, speed, particularly for older designs, was the biggest failing of the monowheel. Just as the outer wheel of the monowheel spins, so can the inner chassis. If a monowheel driver accelerates too fast, or most dangerously brakes too fast, they run the risk of spinning inside this wheel. This phenomenon is often called gerbling. Gerbling can be mitigated by using skids or even fins or gyros, but braking at high speed remains dangerous. Monowheel drivers had to perform slow and controlled stops, often using their feet or skids attached to the inner chassis not to flip over. Suspension was also a challenge for monowheel designs. Monowheels with their thin, often solid tires were susceptible to damage over hard terrain. Just as dangerous was a slippery surface, the monowheel's greatest strength is that it has such minimal contact with the ground, making it very efficient. But this lack of friction also means the vehicle has terrible traction, with the risk of being sent to the next dimension, very high on slick roads. The early 20th century was fascinated by the potential of the monowheel. As if the vehicle wasn't dangerous enough, several designs tested the potential of powering them using a propeller. This design, shown in a popular science publication, was amazingly conceived as a military vehicle for use during World War I. Dynaspheres were another type of monowheel. This design placed the driver and inner housing in a heavy metal latticework. These heavy designs required a more complex gearing system that would shift the inner housing to steer the monowheel. This design was more stable and encased the driver, but did not solve the issue of the internal housing spinning inside the structure when braking or accelerating. And for turning, it was a far inferior design to the smaller monowheel. Alright, I'm Johnny, thanks for watching. I hope we were able to get a grip on something a bit different for the channel. And I know everyone is tired of my really bad puns at the end of these videos. So before you get deflated, I will just wish you a nice rest of your day.